at Dell Podcast, your auditory experience on employment and labor news. Welcome back to Dell Podcast, your auditory experience on employment and labor news. Now, today we are reflecting on the May month. The May month is quite significant for the Department of Employment and Labor because it's dubbed Workers' Month. So everything that we do is concentrating on workers because we believe that workers are the backbone of South African economy. Without workers, South Africa will not work. So South Africa works because of workers, and therefore worker rights are human rights and they must be protected. And today we'll be reflecting on all activities that we have embarked on through this particular month. And I'm not alone today. I am with Mr. Teboho Thejane, whom we're going to be discussing and unpacking and reflecting on this particular matters in this particular month.
CEO, hi. It's very nice to be with you.
Thank you very much for having me. This lovely podcast.
Yes. So I think maybe let's start off here. You mentioned that we are reflecting on Workers' Month, May month as we dub it in the department. So there's been several engagements throughout the month.
Absolutely.
Right, and of that, it's important for our people to know the dialogue surrounding those engagements.
Yes.
But before we get into the engagements, I just want you to reflect on the importance of the dialogue, the conversations that need to be had. So many topical issues, but just take us through why it is so important for our viewers and our clients at home to understand what May month is about for the workers. Why is that so important? Because sometimes people may think they know why, but we obviously have a better understanding that we'd like for them to reflect on.
No, absolutely. I think it's important, especially dialogue. I mean, our viewers will know that we've got social partners at NEDLAC, and NEDLAC as a social dialogue platform, it's quite insignificant because all facets of our society gets taken care of. But from the department point of view, I mean, we had stakeholder engagements where we visited different provinces. We're engaging with stakeholders about the work of the department. We're educating them about worker rights. What are worker rights? Worker rights are within a legislative framework because we need to ensure that both workers and employers understand their responsibilities and their role in this world of work. For example, Labor Relations Act, Basic Conditions of Employment Act, National Minimum Wage. As an example, employers need to ensure those are embarked on. Workers need to ensure that those benefit them because those signifies their rights. I mean, just the issue of engaging with stakeholders on the significance of national minimum wage. The minister has announced the increase. We'll ensure that we engage with them to understand that national minimum wage is important because it is closing the gap between, lower wages as well as living wage, because national minimum wage is not a living wage, but we love people to have a living wage. Basic conditions of employment, for example, issues around worker rights, I mean, in terms of the time, overtime, and all other significant issues. So we've been engaging with this engagements with workers, with employers, with our social partners. We also had discussions within the department as well to try and ensure. If you follow us, you will see when we take services to the people, we engage accordingly. We take questions, we then respond. We also go on social media, we go on national television, the radio stations, we talk about these issues. So there's the significance of May month, just to make sure that workers also understand that they count in this country.
I love that you mentioned, legislation such as the national minimum wage, of which, by the way, we did a whole episode on the national minimum wage, and I think our viewers can obviously then go back and look at the episodes that we have done before.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned the taking services to the people, which is our service delivery vehicle. We may also look at it as an outreach that the department does.
Absolutely.
The significance of that, I know, is also to engage our stakeholders where they are, right? But for people that don't really understand, for clients and some of our community members that don't really understand, what is it that you want to reflect on regarding taking services to the people? What is it that you would want people to understand about it and this model of service delivery?
Look, taking services to the people, it's very, very significant. And I think our viewers and followers must also be informed that we have a hashtag which is called hashtag Yazini, Know Your Department. Now, taking services to the people is important because we want our clients, our valued clients, to know what the department does, what the department can do for them, the services that we provide. So taking services to the people, we then go to a province or a region, taking a basket of services. So we take public employment services. We ensure that work seekers are able to register on our ESSA system, Employment Services of South Africa. We provide them with counseling services. We prepare them for interviews. We register their CVs and match them with the job opportunities on the system. We also take inspection and enforcement services to them. Those that have got challenges at work, we really make sure that we take their complaints. We then inspect and investigate, make sure that they are covered. We take CCMA as well. We take Productivity South Africa. For those youngsters or the youth that have got small businesses that maybe they might be having challenges, we then provide them with turnaround solutions to make sure that they thrive. So there's a number of activities that we take to our clients when you're taking services. Unemployment insurance funds. Those who want to register their claims, those who want to check their claims, they can check them in real time, online, on our online services. So that's the significance of that. So also so that we can have a personal touch with our clients. What we want to achieve through taking services to the people is to create happy clients in real time.
Thank you for that. I'd like us to just dive a little deeper now, because we did speak about some of the key programs that took place as Workers' Month ensued. And I think at the onset of that was, the African Regional Labour Administration Center convention that happened.
Absolutely.
Of which obviously our minister, Minister Suzana Meth, is the chairperson.
Yes.
Any reflections of that in terms of what ensued, what you would like our clients to, observe as a takeaway?
Look, I think that was an important engagement, but what is significant is that Minister Suzana Meth, as you've indicated, is the chair of ARLAC, which is very important not only for South Africa, but for Africa at large. So Minister Meth did converge, social partners to discuss around issues of, platform work, digitalization. As you know, the world of work is evolving. I mean, people are not longer working only in offices, you can order things online, so that's business, that is work. So she was really engaging to say, how best can we ensure that Africa benefit from platform work so that we can create jobs? People don't necessarily have to be employees. They can also be employers themselves by employing themselves. And platform work, digitalization, fourth industrial revolution presents that particular opportunity. Therefore, it is important from a social dialogue point of view to engage with social partners, engage with other ARLAC members in terms of how can we, maximize, how can we take advantage, how can we empower our citizens to get into this kind of work, which is platform work. But significantly also, as ARLAC discusses these issues through the Minister of Employment and Labour, as you know, we've got ILO or ILC, International Labour Conference. These are the issues that gets taken over there for discussion, for endorsement, to make sure that at least there's a recognition of platform work. It also falls within the scope of the legislative framework, which is labour law. So yeah, so it was quite interesting, and I really learned a lot from social partners in terms of how this can be viewed, how it can be harnessed for employability and employment. As we know, we are the Department of Employment and Labour after all.
So I like that. I like that you mentioned the evolution of the world of work as we know it, the conventional way of working, that the world is evolving, and people have been moving along with the change, so seeing the rise in terms of digital work and platforms. Yes. So with that, the department plays the responsibility of ensuring the employability in pursuance of its mandate. Now, what comes to my mind with regards to that now is the issue of the issue of the relationship between that type of work and ensuring compliance to labor legislation. Yes. Right? Because then we're seeing also some certain level of manipulation of that, because wherever there's an opportunity, people will always try to come and manipulate that. Now, this also then takes me into compliance, right? Compliance to labor laws, even with the evolution of the world of work. I'd like you to reflect briefly in terms of that and what you have observed coming out of these programs that have been taking place, and what you really want our people to be aware of or take note in terms of that.
I like that. If you get into platform work or digitalization, if you take, for example, basic conditions of employment as an example, which regulates working hours. Now, how many hours does a person at platform work if vis-a-vis a person in the office? And if you take the national minimum wage in terms of payment, because we know in terms of national minimum wage, for example, if a person works for an hour, you don't pay them for the hour. You pay them for a particular number of hours, like 4 hours, even if they worked for, because it needs to protect. Yes. Now, a person who works at platform work, who, let's say, for example, is a Uber driver, for example, or is a person who delivers food, and. Now, in terms of the law, how does the law protect them? Now, if you work in the office, compensation fund, for example, defines a workplace in a particular manner. Now, is a car a workplace? Is yours sitting somewhere under a tree with your computer, selling products and people buying products from you on a platform work? Is it a workplace? So the legislation needs to be looked into to make sure that it takes care and it covers a worker, because constitutionally in South Africa, a worker is a worker is a worker. So it is quite important, I think, for those discussions to ensue, for those discussions to be looked into and be looked from a social dialogue point of view by social partners. Government needs to look into that, business needs to look at that, organized labor needs to look into this, and there must be consensus and agreement in terms of how a worker is protected and the significance of us discussing these things within a workers' month, which is May month.
Excellent. So just to be obviously clear in terms of those public members or clients that may not be understanding what we're saying when you're saying digital work, you mentioned one. Obviously, we're not trying to really promote or put companies on the spotlight, but perhaps just to say that these are categorized as e-hailing services, food and grocery delivery services, work that you receive on an online platform and you actually do physically.
Yes.
Okay.
You receive that. Those, I think outline and define them very well. And the minister was asking a very interesting question to say, you know, people say, I bought this thing from Takealot. But we understood that there's so many people behind that, because there's some of us small businesses that actually sell, but there's a common person or company that coordinates delivery of that particular product. So when you buy from those kind of establishment, you're basically buying from other small businesses and you are helping them to grow in terms of economy, in terms of sustainability. So they're quite important. E-hailing, for example, you can choose any transportation, for example, that you want to use, and you pay competitive amounts, but there's diversity to choose from, and it allows those that might have challenges in terms of jobs to also get into them. So they're quite important. I think technology has really come about quite fine for us as South Africans, and I think the world at large. I mean, I know we're talking 4th industrial revolution, and some other worlds are on the 5th industrial revolution, but digitalization and platform work is quite significant. I think we need to embrace it, we need to learn about it, we need to Google about it and ask questions, and some of the questions can be asked through a Dell podcast for more engagement.
Okay. Okay, so as we're winding down on these reflections, I just want us to quickly just look at maybe just 2 more issues. I think briefly, as briefly as we possibly can. One of the things that we're extremely topical as we're reflecting on Workers' Month, May month as it may, is the inspection drive. You know, the blitz unannounced inspection drives that happen in the Western Cape. You know, which were not different from any other inspections that I've had, obviously led by Deputy Minister John Mosbiya.
Absolutely.
Can you just reflect on some of the issues emanating from that, which you would like our members of the public or viewers to take cognizance of, as briefly as you can?
I think it is important. Look, as inspection and enforcement, we conduct inspections routinely. We've got proactive and reactive inspections, which is part of our work. But in May in particular, because it was Workers' Month, we had blitz inspections. And these blitz inspections, I think it is important to note, they are multidisciplinary. Multidisciplinary in the context that we have SAPS, we've got Home Affairs, we've got a border management, and we've got ourselves as inspectors to deal with those. So we're looking at a number of things when we look into blitz inspections. We're looking at labor laws. We're also looking at compliance with occupational health and safety, LRA, BCA, but our sister departments are also looking at other laws. For example, your Migration Act. That's where Home Affairs comes in, that's where border management comes in. And we want to make sure that worker rights are protected, workers are treated like human beings, workers are treated within the confines of the labor legislations. And yes, indeed, you're right, we went to Western Cape, we in the construction industry, and we made sure that we correct those, and we've seen some improvement. And before that, we also went to, as people might have known, went to Newcastle, for example, where we did inspections with the DM. And these inspections are quite significant, and we encourage our viewers, when they have challenges at work within the legislative framework of labor laws, visit the nearest labor center, talk to an inspector, outline your challenge, mention the name of the company, its physical location, and if you have the name and contact number of the manager there, give it to the inspector. They will move fast and investigate and inspect. So it's quite important.
Great stuff. Thank you very much for that. In her speech, Minister Nomakhosi Namath referred to the speech as a statement of national purpose to build a labor market and an economy that works all for our people. Sometimes we use these terms and there are people who don't really understand what is the purpose of it all. Just briefly round up what the purpose of the budget vote speech was, and maybe some of the issues that you think you may want to reflect on, that you want our clients to gain an understanding of and as we briefly rounding it up?
Look, thanks for that. Budget vote by itself, and our budget vote is budget vote 31 of the Department of Employment and Labour. So it is important for minister or ministry to table the budget vote so that it can be accepted, because it signifies the amount of money that we have towards achieving what we set out to do. We have a strategic session where we set out exactly what we're going to do, but it must be costed. Now, the importance is also to actually signify and indicate what is that we're going to do and what we want to highlight. What the minister was highlighting, or the budget vote was highlighting, is really pushing for employability and employment. We've noted there's a challenge of employment in the Department of Employment and Labour. Put that at the forefront to say we are looking at measures of how we can create and generate employment. We've got a number of projects that we have, like for example, labor activation program as an example. Through public employment services, we've got job schemes or work schemes that we are promoting to ensure that we create employability. We're also enhancing issues of inspections, because we already spoken about the significance of worker rights and enforcement of the laws. Now, Project 20K, for example, which is used to enhance and augment the number of inspectors that we have to ensure that we cover a larger area of the world of work in terms of enforcement. But what is important is that the enforcement of the laws is not about punitive measures. It's to empower the workers and the employers to know their rights and do things right and do the right things. So that's what the minister, through the budget vote, she was really pushing. But also, we've declared 2026 a golden jubilee year, because we are commemorating the 50 years of the youth of 1976. The significance of that is because we also want to make sure that over and above everyone who gets into jobs, the youth of today also have an opportunity to get into meaningful and decent jobs, because the youth is our future. And that's where sustainable development and sustainability comes into play. So we are commemorating in the month of June, obviously, the 1976 uprisings. But for the whole year, as we work, we are also, commemorating Golden Jubilee, which is the 50 years of 1976 youth uprising.
Okay, thank you. As you're signing out then, CCO, where can people catch us? Where can people follow us if they want to see our activities and the taking services that we have been speaking about, and catch what the department is really doing in pursuance of its mandate?
We've actually been very excited with the other episodes that we've done. The followership is growing, so we are very happy with that. We'd like to thank our followers for following us. Please continue checking our activities on our social media platforms, our Facebook, YouTube, X, as well as Instagram. We'll post all our work there, and Facebook, of course. We'll post all of our work there. Also, please make sure that you interact with our website, www.labour.gov.za. You'll find everything. All the labor legislation that I'm talking about, they are on the website. All the media statements that we issue, all the posters, all the infographics and write-ups are on the website. Follow us there and continue following at Dell Podcast, your auditory experience of employment and labor.